Star Trek was one of the first franchises to embrace computer-generated imagery. Before long, the old days of physical starship model props and styrofoam alien planets were behind us. Nowadays, CGI has a sour reputation in the film industry as being lazy or ugly, but Star Trek usually keeps it tame, making sure to use practical effects whenever possible, usually only going with CGI for space scenes or the occasional backdrop when absolutely necessary. This list will be taking a closer look at 10 CGI effects used in Star Trek that went above and beyond what was possible with practical methods. So with that in mind then, I'm Ellie with Trek Culture here with the 10 best CGI effects in Star Trek. Number 10. The Genesis device demonstration. Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan introduced us to the Genesis device, an experimental technology capable of automatically terraforming planets. In the movie, Kirk and others watched a video demonstration of the Genesis device made using CGI by Lucasfilm Graphics Group, a team that later evolved into Pixar. The demonstration was undeniably stunning for 1982 and one of the most advanced CGI sequences ever made at the time, and was also the first fully textured CGI effect ever used in Star Trek. The video demonstration included some advanced visuals of DNA and other molecules and a shot of a desolate and lifeless computer-generated moon being transformed into a lush forest-covered world perfect for humanoid life. This scene was a revolutionary leap forward for CGI in the motion picture industry. The digital starship models had not yet reached the level of detail needed to be believable, but computer-generated interfaces and simulations like this one worked so well partially because they were going for a more digital look and paved the way for full CGI starship and space scenes in the future. Number 9. The Bajoran Wormhole. By the 90s, CGI technology had advanced enough that the special effects team behind Star Trek were finally getting comfortable using it frequently. The Bajoran wormhole from Deep Space Nine was one example of a CGI effect that was incredibly impressive for the time. Created by the company Rhythm and Hues, the wormhole looks like a giant whirlpool of gases and energy that pulsates and spins around its tunnel-like entrance. When the wormhole appears, it blossoms out of empty space like a flower with a flash of light. The effect not only resembles a wormhole, but conveys a sense of brilliance and beauty, something very fitting for an anomaly the Bajorans consider to be sacred and holy. On top of the exterior shots, the inside of the wormhole is striking, flashes of energy shooting off in every direction. Peter Lauritsen, one of the members of the team that made the effect, has stated in the past that the wormhole effects were cutting edge when we did them. This certainly seems true, as even today it still holds up. Number 8. The Crystalline Entity. After the early CGI effects used in the original series films, the teams behind Star Trek: The Next Generation became a lot more comfortable experimenting with the technology. One of the earliest examples of a CGI model being used in the show was the crystalline entity from the episode Datalore, designed and rendered by Chris Alsop from the Post Group. This monstrous being made entirely of crystals and resembling a giant snowflake proved to be a huge hassle to design. CGI technology was still in its infancy, so the entity was extremely costly and time-consuming to create, but when completed proved to be a worthwhile addition to the episode. Robert Legato, a visual director and coordinator for the series, allegedly disagreed that the CGI was worth the extra work, commenting that the same effect could have been achieved by painting a tumbleweed white. While that may have been passable, especially compared to some of the other practical effects from Season 1, the CGI model reflects light and gives off a more authentic crystal-like texture that would have been difficult to replicate with a physical prop. Number 7. The Tardigrade. More modern Star Trek installments, like Discovery, are much more comfortable with using CGI, given how far the technology has advanced. Discovery still has a fair amount of practical work, like many of the beautiful interior sets and alien costumes, but when needed, their special effects team has given us some seriously CGI effects. Most notably, the ship's saucer that rotates during Black Alert, the huge space battles like the Battle of the Binary Stars, and of course the traveler of the mycelial network, the tardigrade Ripper. Ripper was one of the most impressive CGI aliens we've ever seen in Trek, a worthy evolution of the plastic-looking Xindi from Enterprise. Based on microscopic tardigrades native to Earth, Ripper has 8 legs, each with multiple fingers, a slug-like torso, and a fully animated face and tubed mouth. The attention to detail in the model and having all of these factors synchronize perfectly to show a natural movement makes the tardigrade's model really stand out. The effect when the alien dried up and went into cryptobiosis in Choose Your Pain was also really cool, and a real thing that actual tardigrades do to protect their bodies from extreme environments. Number 6. The NARADA'S first appearance. The 2009 Star Trek film featured the biggest leap forward for special effects in the franchise's history. Say all you want about lens flares, but the CGI was impeccable, a drastic improvement from the previous installment in the franchise, Enterprise, which only went off the air 4 years prior. The new transporter effect was much more detailed than any done before. The ships were gorgeous and some of the alien designs were really creative. But the most impressive CGI work in the movie came near the opening sequence as the NARADA, Nero's ship, first appeared. The USS Kelvin was investigating what was described as a lightning storm in space. Eventually, they discovered that what they were seeing was actually a black hole that somehow, because of a reaction with red matter, was acting as a gateway from the future. The lightning surrounding the black hole gives it such a menacing look, as if it's pouring out material from the other end. The effect also made the NARADA appear even huger and more sinister than usual while emerging from the darkness and casting its silhouette over the nearby star. The same black hole effect later consumed the NARADA at the end of the movie, bringing the ship's whole story full circle. While this effect may not have been the most scientifically accurate, since nothing can really escape a black hole, it does get points for style. Number 5. The Changeling Goo Effect. One of the most difficult CGI effects to achieve on Deep Space Nine was the goo that appeared whenever changelings like Odo shapeshifted or reverted to their liquid state. This effect needed to be particularly versatile as the goo had to bend and contort into all kinds of different shapes depending on what form the changeling was assuming, from a dog to a computer, a set of shimmering lights, or anything else. The process typically used a mixture of blue screen photography, a specialized CGI model of the goo, and a number of other techniques to make the transition as seamless as possible. Depending on the specific details of the morph, the team commissioned different effects companies, but most of these goo sequences, including those from the pilot episode Emissary, were created by Vision Art Design and Animation. The effect is not the prettiest nowadays, but was super impressive at the time, and its shininess and sticky texture does a great job of showing an intermediate stage in between the changeling's solid and liquid states. Number 4. The Time Warp Hallucination. One of the trippiest scenes in Trek came in Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, when the stolen bird of prey and its crew slingshotted around the sun to travel backwards in time in order to save Earth by bringing a pair of whales back from the 20th century. During the time warp, Kirk and the others experienced some crazy psychedelic visuals made using some very early, yet still impressive CGI from ILM computer graphics. 3D models of all of the characters' heads appeared in a pool of smoke, morphing from one of them to another, along with a whale and a human body falling into an ocean, symbolizing humanity's deep connection with the whales. The models in this scene are rather undetailed, but that limitation of the technology at the time was used to great effect here to further illustrate the psychedelic experience Kirk and the others went through during the time warp, and how disorientated their minds had become. This scene is a great example of visual effects artists working with what they got, and using the limitations of their tech to their benefit. Number 3. The Bajoran Lightship. In the Deep Space Nine episode Explorers, Sisko found plans for an ancient solar sail ship used by the Bajorans as early as the 16th century, and set to work building a replica to prove that the vessel was capable of traveling from Bajor to Cardassia Prime, something that many Bajorans believed was accomplished in the past, despite the Cardassian government denying it. The CGI model for the replica solar sail ship, known as a Bajoran Lightship, was one of the most advanced ever created for Trek. John Knoll from Industrial Light and Magic rendered the model under the direction of Glenn Neufeld. The sails were unfoldable and made of a fabric-like material, two effects that would have been much harder to get right with a physical model. Number 2. The updated black hole effect. Black holes have shown up many times throughout Star Trek, but none have been as scientifically accurate and as beautiful as the one from the Strange New Worlds episode Memento Mori, and the fake black hole illusion from the Discovery episode If Memory Serves. Both the real black hole and the illusion appear very similar to the black hole that appeared in the movie Interstellar. They have a huge black sphere at the center, surrounded by an accretion disk of fast-moving particles that appears to fold around the back due to the path of its light being curved from the gravity. The effect from that movie was created by the CGI company double negative, with the collaboration of theoretical physicist and Nobel Prize laureate Kip Thorne and some of his colleagues. Thorne and the other scientists on the team ran calculations based on real theoretical science and offered suggestions that helped make the black hole from Interstellar as realistic as possible. Now, it's not been confirmed that the black holes appearing in Trek used the same methods as those used for Interstellar, but it is known that Double Negative made uncredited contributions to the effects for the second season of Discovery, the season that the Talosian black hole illusion appeared in, so it is very likely. Number 1. Star Trek Beyond's warp effect. Star Trek Beyond included one of the most realistic depictions of warp travel that we've ever seen in Trek. Warp drive works by creating a sort of protective bubble around the ship, then contracting the space in front of the ship and expanding the space behind it, effectively allowing the ship to travel faster than light without actually accelerating at all. Many believe that this is the only way faster-than-light travel could be possible, given the limitations of Einstein's theory of relativity. Visual effects supervisor Peter Chang came up with the idea to bend light around the warp bubble, creating a gravitational lensing effect similar to what you'd see around the edges of a black hole or other massive objects. Just like a black hole, the warp effect distorts light by curving the space it travels through. The warp effect in Beyond not only looks cooler than any used in the past, but is also way more scientifically accurate. And that concludes our list. If you can think of any we missed, then do let us know in the comments below, and while you're there, please don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos in the future. Also, head over to Twitter and follow us there at Trek Culture, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with Trek Culture. I hope you have a wonderful day, and remember to boldly go where no one has gone before.